Hey, what is going on, guys? Veil Decay here. Got another video for you guys. So with Battle for Azeroth 8 to 9 days out from release, I thought I would make a video on Mage race selection and which I think is best to play as a mage. Some of you may be brand new to the game. Some of you may be brand new to the class and want to know which race is the best for playing a mage. So I'm going to throw in my 2 cents and I'm going to let you guys know what I feel and what I think is the best choices. I'm going to give a top 3 at the end, and one by one I'm going to just go through and explain like all the different racials for you guys. Kind of just break it down for you guys. At the end, I'll do a top 3, let you guys know for PvP and PvE which I think is best. And then I will do Alliance in this video, and I will do another video for Horde because I feel like if I do them together, the video will be extremely long. So with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so first up we got Human. As Human, you get 2% increase haste, crit, mastery, and verse, which is really nice. 2% on all your secondary stats is a really nice thing. Next up, they get 10% rep gain, which of course is always a nice thing to have, especially if you have to rep grind, especially at the beginning of an expansion. Rep grinds are always a thing. It's got gear rewards at the end or whatever. You can get to it that much faster with this bonus. Next, they have Every Man for Himself. It's a stun break. It's really good in a lot of situations. It helps a lot, especially because most mages play Shimmer now, so Blink doesn't break stuns, so you have Every Man for Himself. Alright, that does it for humans. We're going to jump into Dwarf. So Dwarf, you get Stone Form, which takes off bleeds, poisons, curses, magic, and diseases, I believe. On top of that, it increases your physical damage reduction by 10%. It's a really nice buff. It helps a lot. Next, they get 2% crit, just flat 2% crit, just for being a dwarf. As a mage, your main stat is pretty much crit, so 2% flat off the top is really nice to have. 1% frost resist damage, not really noticeable, but there it is. Then they get a buff to archaeology. I call it archaeology roids. They get more fragments and they survey faster. So it's just kind of fitting for the class, just a flavor thing. Next up is Night Elf. Night Elf, you get Shadow Meld, which is really nice to have. You can drop combat, things like that. Helps a lot, especially as a mage. You get 2% dodge, and then Wisp form. You just move faster back to your ghost runs. Your corpse runs are a little bit faster, simply put. 1% nature resist, and then 2% movement increase while stealth. As a mage, you don't have stealth. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work in invisibility, so it doesn't really affect us too much. Crit and haste each get 1%. Crit is during the day and haste at night. That's just how night elves work. That's the way their racial is. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into gnomes. Gnomes, you have escape artist, which is like a snare break. Helps a lot. As a mage, you got to stay mobile. You got to stay kiting. Helps a lot. Increased resource pool. They get 5% extra mana. Doesn't really sound like a whole lot, does it? But when you break it down and actually do the math, I believe it's like 2 to 3 more frost bolts, 2 to 3 more pyroblast fireball, and I think it's 2 more arcane blasts. So it's slightly, a little bit more DPS, just slightly. It's a very min-max thing. They get 1% resist to arcane damage, and then their engineering skill is increased by, I believe, 15, and then they get 1% haste. So, you know, as a mage, haste, you throw out spells faster. Can't hurt, right? You get a couple more spells out, especially with that increased mana pool. So that does it for gnomes. We're going to jump to Draenei. Draenei, you get jewel crafting increased by 10. You get Gift of the Naru, which is a nice heal. I personally play a Draenei Mage, and I have it macroed to my ice block. So when I'm in trouble, I ice block and I heal, and it saved me quite a few times. It's really nice. You know, it can save you, it can save, you know, somebody close to you. They get increased agility, intel, and strength. When you actually break it down into numbers, as a mage, you get 78 more intel than the other races. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, you know, doesn't really show up, you know what I'm saying? It's there, but it's not there kind of thing, but it is an increase. So lastly, you get 1% resistant to shadow damage. I'm gonna go ahead and roll into Worgen. Worgen, you get a sprint, which, you know, as a mage could help you get away. You know, you blink, sprint, get away, things like that. 1% crit increase. Crit's always nice as a mage, like I said before. 1% nature and shadow resist damage. And then skinning faster, and it's increased by 15. So we got the pandas coming up next. And as Panda, you get an end cap, which could, you know, potentially help. You get an end cap. You get 2 times XP, rested XP, which doesn't really help you at end game. Kind of just helps you while you're leveling. Double food buff is probably the best one they have, you know, because I mean, you get twice your food buff, you know, essentially twice the intel, twice whatever stat you've got on there. Cooking skill, they have it increased by 15, and then they have bouncy, which you take less fall damage, which as a mage you really shouldn't have to worry about because you do have blink and you do have slow fall, but it is there. Everybody messes up. So that being said, that does it for these. We're gonna jump into the allied races. So as a void elf, you get the teleport, which is nice, although it takes time to set up that teleport. So it could be a hindrance of sorts, but if you can get it off, it works. Next, they have a buff where it procs off of your damage, and it does, I believe, 5% of your damage as a dot, I believe, or extra damage, I should say. Sounds really good. In theory, for it to be really good, you have to be able to get every proc, full duration use out of it. Otherwise, it's not that great. On damage breakdown, it's about 1% of your total damage, so it doesn't really work out that well. Sounds good. In practice, not so good. 1% shadow resistance, and then here's the big one: spellcasts aren't delayed by damage. I think the only time spells are delayed now when you cast is if you're hit by melee. So if you're not getting smacked by some melee, you don't really have to worry about it. But as a void elf, you don't have to worry about it at all because you're not going to be delayed, which is nice as a caster. More damage, more consistent. Lastly, they get a discount on transmog and void storage. Not really a big deal. Doesn't really affect gameplay at all. It's 50% off, I believe. So for all you transmog addicts out there, Void Elf is the way to go, I guess. That does it for the Void Elf. We're gonna jump to Lightforged Draenei. Lightforged Draenei, they deal massive holy damage, and on beta, this was actually really strong. So strong, in fact, that they recently nerfed it. I don't know if it's still as strong or even worth using, but I mean, it definitely shouldn't one or two shot somebody, but it's probably still pretty good. They have blacksmithing increased by 10, and then they can summon a forge. They get 20% XP gain from killing demons, which again, really good while you're leveling, but does you no good at max level. They get 1% resistance to holy damage, and then when they die, they do like an AoE damage to enemies and an AoE heal to allies. So, I don't know how strong that is specifically, but probably, again, sounds better than what it really is. Last up, we've got the Dark Iron Dwarf. Dark Iron Dwarf have something similar to Stone Form. It is called Fire Blood. It dispels all the same things, magic, poison, disease, curse, all of that stuff. But the difference here is when you use it, you get 750 intel, and then you get 250 intel per dispel. So however many things you've dispelled with that, you get 250 for each one. Really awesome. Really strong. So strong, I think that it'll get nerfed before Battle for Azeroth releases or right after. That being said, we're going to go to the next one, which is they move faster while indoors. You get 4% movement increase while indoors. Not really game breaking, not really that big of a deal. You just move slightly faster. Blacksmithing is increased by, I believe, 5, and you craft 25% faster. So at the beginning of an expansion, when you're creating all that gear for people, throwing it on the auction house, you're gonna make a lot more money because you're making it a lot faster. It's one way to look at it. Next up is the mole machine. The mole machine helps you go to different places, in the world. Now, obviously, as a mage, you have your teleport, you have your ports. So I'm pretty sure the mole machine takes you to like certain other places that your teleports don't go. But as a mage, you already have pretty good transportation. So it's just kind of like a flavor thing. And then lastly, it's 1% less physical damage, which as a caster, that's always nice. Physical damage reduction is always nice. And that is the breakdown of all of the racials for all of the different races that can be a mage. So, with that being said, I'm going to give you guys the top 3 for my PvP and PvE picks. Alright, so the top 3 for PvE, I feel, are Dwarf, Human, and Gnome. Now again, these are my personal opinion, my personal thought. Just for the facts that you have the 2% crit, which is really good as a mage, as a dwarf. Stone form can get rid of those dots, and they do really well. That is my number 1, followed by Human. You know, the 2% to all your secondary stats is really, really nice. The rep gain bonus really helps for early expansion because you bust through those rep grinds that much faster. And then of course, you know, every man for himself breaks stuns. Helps with some kind of mechanic somewhere. My third choice, and bringing up the tail end of the PvE picks, is Gnome. You know, again, snare break helps a lot. Helps with, you know, mobility. Helps you get out of some kind of mechanic somewhere, some way. That 5% extra mana definitely is going to help you somewhere. And then the 1% haste is just nice. It's a convenience. You cast that much faster. So those are my top 3 for PvE. Now we're going to go into my top 3 for PvP. So for PvP, my number 1, the gold medal for PvP as a mage, goes to Dark Iron Dwarf. Just for Fireblood in itself. The fact that you get 750 intel and then 250 per dispel makes for insane amount of damage, and it cleans you of all dots. That is huge. They're really strong right now on beta, and I feel like we will see a bunch when it comes time for them to be released. So coming up next with the silver medal for PvP, my pick is Human. Why? Every man for himself. Solely right there. The stun break, like I said, in PvP, Shimmer doesn't break stuns like old Blink used to, so you have every man for himself now. The 2% in your stats just helps do more damage. That's my number 2. That's my silver medal. Third place, and bringing in the bronze, Void Elf. Yeah, you get the extra blink kind of teleport thing. That's nice. But the big thing is the no delay on spell cast. When you're getting trained down by melee and they're smacking you down, they're slapping you around, they can't slow down your casts. Simple as that. It is nice. So, those are my picks for PvE and PvP. I hope you guys have gotten some kind of information out of this video. I hope I've helped somebody out there in some way. I will be doing the Horde video coming up real soon. And until then, guys, if you got any comments, concerns, questions, you just want to yell at me, throw it down in the comments below. Hit me with the like, hit that sub button, show me some kind of something, show me some love. And until the next video, guys, I will catch you all later. Peace.